We are live. Welcome this Tuesday. This is season 9, episode 11 of the BuiltOnAir podcast. Good to be with you. My name is Dan Fellers, one of the hosts and founders of BuiltOnAir. And we have a special guest with us, Zoltan. Welcome, Zoltan. How are you?
Hi there. Sorry, I was just listening to. I had an echo in my ear. So hi. Good morning.
All right, we'll get to meet Zoltan a little bit later in the show and find out what you're up to. But good to have you with us for this episode. And we also have Camille with us. Hello, Camille.
Hello.
Glad you could make it today.
Hi, Camille.
Hi.
So we've got a good show for you guys today. As always, on the BuiltOnAir podcast, we do 4 different segments where we'll go through a variety of different things and talk about all things Airtable and get you up to speed on everything new and show you some cool stuff that ourselves and other people are working on. So with that, we'll kick it off. And so for today's show, just quickly we'll go through all the different communities in the Round the Bases segment. We'll then do a spotlight on AutoReport, our primary sponsor. Camille will show us a base that she has built and showcase some formulas for time interval reporting. We'll then hear more about Zoltan and his story and what he's doing. And then Zoltan will then share his new product that will be coming to market soon. And then we'll also do a spotlight on AutoReport and end it there. So with that, we will kick off with our Round the Bases. And we always like to start with the Airtable community. So this is an ongoing thread. Obviously, if you're using Airtable, you're familiar with the big announcement that came out a couple weeks ago, the interface designer. I wanted to bring up the original thread because if you just saw kind of the announcement and you're not following closely, you're missing out on some great conversation that's happening in that thread. I don't know, Zoltan and Camille, if you've been following this, but some friends of the show are lively engaged in discussing. We've got Scott and Kavan and Bill and others talking about, and Justin. So there's some great discussion, a lot of it revolving around the pricing model of will Airtable ever allow users to use the interface that without having to be a paid user. A lot of discussion on there. Any Camille, have you been following this thread more?
I've followed the thread, and then there was also 2 table talks about interface designer. The one from last week was sort of more of a behind the scenes sort of look at interface designer that had some of the developers who had worked on it talking about some of the decisions they made and what their hopes for the future were. And that was a good sort of overview of where interface designer is today and some of the limitations that they hope to conquer in the future. And it dovetails kind of nicely with this thread because it's mostly Jordan, who is the community head of community at Airtable. So she's sort of answering questions on behalf of the rest of the Airtable team. And a lot of the thread is people being, a mix of things, like being very excited because they can solve some of their use cases right away, and some people who are like very close to solving a use case, but it's missing 1 or 2 features. I'm one of those people. And then there's people who are like wholly unconvinced, like, this isn't what I need at all. I still need, Pori or what have you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a lot of selection. Yeah, that table talk, I watched that. One of them, the technical one you described, that was really good. Gave some good insight into what they're focused on. If I were to summarize that table talk, some key things, they definitely hear loud and clear the need to be able to create new records and delete records, and I think they kind of implied that might be hopefully coming soon. They also understood the need for incorporating apps into interfaces, although that one, it sounded like, was probably farther down the road. Or some other things I highlighted in that table talk.
They also addressed people wanting to share an interface with people outside of the base, just the interface itself. I don't exactly recall what the consensus was from that table talk, but they talk about it. So,
Yeah, they didn't give any hard deadlines or expectations.
There was no hard deadlines for anything, but they did mention some of the things that they were actively working on, and I don't want to mix things up. So watch that table talk.
Yeah, definitely check out that table talk. Got insight from, I think there was a designer, a developer, and the project manager all on that call with Aaron. So very good. But yeah, good insight here. I thought people shared some really good insight into how people are thinking about this, and it's, common threads of discussion and concerns that I think have been around Airtable for a long time. So I'm pretty sure Airtable is aware of these concerns, but it's always good to give them that feedback, and hopefully they're figuring out their strategy long term to address some of these pressing needs that keep coming up as far as sharing data and using data and permissions and those sorts of things. So here's a link in this thread to the table talk must watch. Yeah. So that's definitely a continuation of the biggest thread that's been happening this month. So be sure to check it out. The last 2 episodes, we've showcased the interface designer. So check out our previous episodes if you haven't watched those and want to get more up to speed on what's new with the interface designer. So they made some other announcements this week on managing Airtable at scale. So you might see some new functionality. These are starting to roll out. I've seen some of them in my bases. Some of these are enterprise only. For example, I believe this UI, right, is enterprise only.
It is.
Admin changes, yeah. So if you're an enterprise customer, you likely see a new interface for managing your users. It looks like they now have the ability to create groups, user groups, and kind of put people into user groups, and then you can set up some levels of access to the groups instead of having to add individual users. So hopefully that would be nice to see in the pro plan as well. Looks like some audit logs at the enterprise level, and workspace sharing restrictions. I think I think is for pro as well. If that's the existing issue or fix that they already had. And so this one, improved loading times for bases of, large bases. I haven't tested this to see it. I have seen, I think this is related to that big database upgrade that they made a while back. So I have noticed a slight increase in loading times. I wouldn't say it's, well, actually, okay, so maybe this is even newer. So they're saying that it's going out to enterprise customers over the coming months. So maybe we haven't seen that yet. So that would be good to see. And hopefully that trickles down into the pro plans. But yeah, this wasn't the list that I was thinking of. So there's actually more than what they listed here. So I've got another thread on Twitter. No, so this is the same one. So there was other, I don't know if it's included in this, but there was other changes that they made. Okay, yeah, so bulk field editing. So I don't know if have you noticed that you can now, let's see if I can test this. So I can actually, if I hold down Control, you can actually highlight multiple fields And then if you right click on it,
Yeah, so I have the beginnings of this functionality. Mine does what yours does. It doesn't let me bulk do things yet, but it lets me bulk select. So it's
interesting.
I think it's a two-step process.
Yeah. So what can you do?
I don't think anything yet. I think
I've
the
seen
actual
it. I've seen it in another of my bases where it will bring up a little pop up over here to have the option to bulk change permissions.
so the rollout is probably just not complete. I have the change in UI. I think the UI is universal, but I don't think I have the feature in my bases yet.
Yeah. The other change that, it's kind of like this. So now they kind of group their sections based off of like the view type or the collaboration permission. So it looks like they got rid of like that default section that used to be there. So before, when you create a new section, it would put everything into like a default section. Now it looks like they kind of group them based off of the view. I believe they also, when you click on this, now when you click on adding a new grid, you now have the option to specify if you want it collaborative or a personal or locked. Although this locked one, I think I mentioned in the Slack community of you don't really want to start with a locked view because there's no point in locking it because you want to configure it first and then lock it. So that's kind of an odd configuration there. Anything else I've missed that they've added in these new updates?
I think that's the bulk of it.
Yeah. So I think you can tell that they spend a lot of time, obviously, in just making onboarding and engaging with their functionality as easy as possible. And I think the main thing, and I think Kavan mentioned this in our community, that the main thing that they're showing you here is that these options exist. So maybe you don't need to use them right away, but you now know that, okay, there is some level of configuration. Now the question is, how do you change that? So you have to come up to here and then you can change it up here once it's already configured. But good starting point to get going. So lots of new functionality. Looks like even more coming, especially if you're an enterprise customer. And hopefully those trickle down. I really am anxious to see the improved loading time and see how that trickles down into the pro and free plans there. So, all right, moving on to the BuiltOnAir community. I want to, if anybody at Airtable is listening, Denali has been trying for weeks now to get a hold of enterprise sales. This isn't a good look. I don't know why salespeople wouldn't be taking the call for somebody, but Denali has been trying to reach out. I've seen her post in the Airtable forum. She's posted in the BuiltOnAir forums. I also saw her post on Twitter begging the enterprise sales team to get in touch with her so that they can upgrade their account. So if anybody has connections into the enterprise sales team at Airtable, please reach out to Denali. And if you need her contact, feel free to reach out to me. So big shout out to try to help her. All right, moving on to the Reddit community. A couple of things posted on this community that I wanted to share. So this is pretty cool. If you're using Stripe, if you're taking payments for your product, and you want to create a dashboard for those Stripe sales, check out what, I actually don't know who this is, the sales guy. Check out this video that they posted. He made a video walking through his entire process and how to set it up. So great tutorial. Even if you're not using Stripe, you can kind of see a real life use case of somebody that's building a live dashboard with real data. And so a great walkthrough, just a 6-minute video. I always like to see these examples of real life scenarios. And so check that out via the Reddit post in there. And then another one posted on Reddit. Somebody was asking about a guide like this and whether you could build a style guide template. And I see these quite a bit of like, could we build something amazing like this? And Airtable is not quite there yet to create like a fully dynamic. Even the new interface designer, you wouldn't be able to create an interface like this that's pretty custom built. The timeline could get you close, but even then the timeline doesn't have like broken out by hour like this.
It's not by hour.
Yeah. So this is a pretty custom looking UI that Airtable is not quite there yet. You could build it custom and then pull the data from Airtable. You could definitely create the data that populates this and have the start and end times and all of that, and everything that you would need to build this, but that would require pulling the data from the API. And I don't believe any third-party tool like a Softer or Pori or Stacker, I don't believe you could build something as custom as this in any of those interfaces.
None do them outright, but the calendar I use for all of my apps, fullcalendar.io, which is a open source option, you could build that.
You could build something like this?
I mean, I don't want to, but yes, with
gotcha.
fullcalendar.io, you totally could do that.
Yeah. But you'd be building it custom, yeah.
Yeah, it would be a custom app like Justin's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be public facing.
Yeah. But you could make it public. If you built it as an app inside of Airtable, then you could do that as well, yeah. Or you could pull it via the API and build it custom.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. So a couple options there. Now I will also give a plug. We have an integration. I actually have a client that actually is a media company, and they run a TV business just like this. And they've been doing a version of this in Google Sheets. And they're now looking to use our OnToAir product because we have an integration with Google Sheets, and you actually can build something like this. It does require scripting to get the data into a format that could work, but it doesn't require custom apps. So if you are doing something like this, get in touch with ontoair.com and we can walk you through how you could potentially set that up. We'll be doing a use case on something similar to this, but this kind of grid layout, you actually can populate it, create kind of a template that gets populated with Airtable data using our integration with Google Sheets. So that's another approach that you could take. So, but yeah, definitely not out of the box. It's going to require something else. So, all right, moving on. Let me see. I think my daughter messaged me. Another cool use case, another example. I love these real life use cases of people using Airtable and then showing how they're building real working examples that they're using in their business. So this is from Kwang, if I'm saying your name right. Built a automation to populate their YouTube channel. And he walks through, he created a video walking through exactly how everything is set up. It's a really good video. I watched it and showcases it. I believe he's using Integromat and I think Zapier as well. I think there's certain things that only one of them could do. And so it did require both Integromat and Zapier, especially the posting to YouTube portion of the video. But he has basically an entire YouTube production process automated in YouTube and does some pretty cool stuff. So if you're in the video creation space and looking for a real life walkthrough of how you can populate and create YouTube channels, YouTube videos, and manage that whole process from Airtable, check out this video. It's really cool. And it's actually similar in the BuiltOnAir with this video or this channel. We actually automate a lot of our post-production stuff. We take a different approach to him. Someday maybe I'll create a video on everything that goes into that. We use some other APIs to automate that, but again, very similar concept to this gentleman, and but it's really cool to use Airtable and just automate a lot of this that normally would just be a lot of busy work and time constraint. All right, going on. I think this is our last one. Actually, we've already talked about this. So this is just a Twitter thread from Airtable talking about some of the new admins announcements. So that is anything I miss, Camille, anything worth highlighting in the communities?
I think that's about it.
Okay, very good. Okay, quickly, I'm gonna give a spotlight, a shout out to Onto Air. I'm gonna bring up our as we're moving on. So Onto Air is a primary sponsor of the BuiltOnAir community, and it's an all-in-one toolkit to run your business. It's a suite of apps that do a variety of different tasks, from backing up your data to the cloud to making it easier to interact with your data and perform automations and whatnot. So check out ontoair.com for all your Airtable business needs. And for today's spotlight, I'm going to check out our soon to be released. I think on last week's video, I said it would be released last week. We're in the queue for Airtable to push out the new version of our Amplify product. So if you watched last week's video and was wondering where it's at, it is still not live. I'm waiting on Airtable to pull the trigger and push it live. So hopefully this week, although with this week being a holiday week with Thanksgiving, it might not go out this week. So we'll see when this goes live. But I wanted to showcase a new feature that got added in this new version that will be coming out, which is a highly requested feature. I know in talking to clients that are either law firms or accounting firms, or medical firms, if you're dealing with a lot of PDFs and you need to highlight and annotate your PDFs, we've incorporated annotations into our PDF viewer through the use of a third-party annotation service called Hypothesis. And it's actually free to use. So if you check out Hypothesis, and we have the links in here, it will, it's configurable to turn on. You can turn it on or off if you want annotations or not. But when it's on, and we have that link there to the Hypothesis website, it will bring up a sidebar that will show you the ability to annotate. So you can actually highlight things and annotate and add a comment to there, and then it will save, and you can post it into your test group, and then it will be available to every other user in your team that's associated with this test group. And so a very powerful way to annotate your PDFs and make comments and make them stick so that they exist long-term and whatnot. So if you are in need of PDF annotations, check out OnTair Amplify, and the soon-to-be released version will have annotations as part of that release. So hopefully coming soon to an app store near your Airtable. Very good. Now we're going to move on to our field focus. And Camille, I will share your screen and take it away.
Okay. I made a base for the first time in forever and put it on the Airtable universe. And the whole sort of purpose around it was to help make time-based reporting easier. So I've noticed a lot of people need to come up with reports for everything that came out in November, all of my records from November, or all of my records from Q4 2021, or all records from 2021 in general. And you can set up views to do this, and then print the views that way, but that's less flexible. And if you needed to run some calculations on the data, like the total number of sales, and you wanted to keep a running log of that, it's kind of difficult unless you start linking records together and keep a reports table. So I built a fairly simple implementation that does that, and I put that on the Airtable universe. It relies on one automation. The automations don't get copied over when you post to the universe, so I'm going to explain what they are when we get there. So to start off, it's a very simple sort of use case that I have built out, where I have some records that are associated with a particular date. Think of them as like transactions. So on the 12th of November, I had a $25 transaction. If I wanted to know the total of sales that I had done in November, I would want to have a report that pulls all of the relevant records in together. And so what I did was I made a somewhat complicated formula, except it's not that complicated. It just took a little bit of thinking through to identify precisely what the formula needed to be. So it makes use of date time format, which I think most people, if you've dealt with formulas and dates before, you're familiar with date time format. But it actually, instead of having it output one format, it outputs every format I would want it to be, depending on the number or the types of reports that I want. So if I take a look at my reports table, you can kind of see, based on the name, the types of reports that I'm reporting on. So I have the year, I have the quarter, I have the month, and I have the week, the numerical week in the year. Going back to my log table, where transactions, you can see it's converting the 12th of November into all of the relevant time periods that it falls under. So the year of 2021, the Q4 of 2021, the 11th month of 2021, and the 46th week of 2021. This formula can be adjusted based on the types of reports you wanted to do. If you only needed year, this is much simpler. If you only needed week, this is much simpler. But if you needed an array of different types of reports, this is what this formula is doing. The reason why there's a bunch of substitutes in here is because I've used symbols to separate out, or to add an identifier of what the type of report is. So if we take a look at this one here, and hopefully this is large enough on my screen. Just gonna zoom in. So you'll see YYYY, which is the full year, dash at the symbol Q dash uppercase Q. The reason why it's doing that is because if I said quarter there, the word quarter, the way datetime format works is it takes letters as variables for a datetime format. So if I tried writing in quarter where this Q is, it wouldn't come out the way I wanted. So I have to sort of introduce a new step in here, and then use a switch formula, or a substitute formula rather, to replace that Q with the actual word quarter in the final result. The final result is this very long string. And I recognized that that was going to be difficult for people to figure out. So I wrote a script that sort of helps you write the formulas that you need in order to come up with every relevant formula in this base. So for me, I'm in Los Angeles, so my weeks start on a Sunday. But if you wanted to change this and say, include weeks as a reporting variable, but have weeks start on a Monday, you would adjust your settings for the script, click run, and then it will output the proper formula for you. And then you'll see there's a couple more formulas. Most of them or all of them are in the other table. So I'll do a quick rundown of what those are doing. But before I get, before I get there, that one automation, all it's doing is copying this value into this field. This field is the link to the reports. So it's really simple, the actual automation of it. The difficult piece was all of the various formulas. So you'll see once you copy an array into a link to another record field type, it creates the number of records that are necessary. So all of the individual time periods are their own record. And then I have a series of fields that are interpreting this, 2021 month 10 into the start and end time of what that time period is. This is also somewhat complicated. So friendly name is actually not necessary. So I have a few formulas that are extracting out of the name what the time period is or the time unit, year, quarter, month, week. And then I have another formula that is sort of doing the reverse, where it's taking the time period out of the full string. One more formula that is converting this into this using this date time format. So, and then from there, period start and period end are again interpreting this into a start and end time. The simplest formula is period end, where it's just taking whatever the start is plus one time unit and then minus 1 day. So no matter what time period you're dealing with, year, month, week, if you add 1 year to the start of it and then subtract 1 day, you'll get the end of that year. Same thing with week, month, quarter. So simplest formula that probably won't need to be adjusted no matter what changes you want to make to this base. Period start is also kind of simple. And again, I knew the formulas would be the hardest part, so I wrote a script to write the formulas for you. If we sort of look at all of them lined up, period start again is just parsing out what one of the formatted fields are. It involves regex replace to sort of have a universal conversion, if that makes sense, of how I've formatted the primary field. If you take this space and adapt it for your needs, and let's say you don't want your primary field to be formatted like this, the base is going to be entirely different because it's, formulas are very reliant on everything sort of being in this format. Whatever the year is, whatever the time unit is, dash, and then the relevant number. If it's not in that format, these formulas are going to panic and you have to rewrite them on your own. But as far as I know, it's more or less foolproof. I know that's setting myself up for a disaster, but I've done a lot of testing and I haven't, as long as you feed it actual dates, it should work. And then just as an example of what you could do now that each reporting period is its own record, if you had Page Designer or Document or all of the other ones that allow you to have PDFs of records that you can print out and export, because they're all linked, you could include a table in them and then list them out so you can print them all on one sheet that is nicely reported, and you could sum the total of them all and the number of records, etc. So if I go forward in time, you could see it's changing within the types of records that fall into the relevant reporting period.
That's impressive. That is pretty cool.
It's all formulas, and it kind of sucks that the automation doesn't come in, because this base actually has a few other automations that are not relevant to the use case I just described, but it does do stuff like If you wanted to fake an auto number, which I've covered on this show before, it includes those automations, but they're not in the universe. So, I mean, that kind of sucks. But AutoReport is the one that's relevant to this. And literally all it's doing is copying the value of that one long formula string into the link to another record field. And that's it.
Gotcha. Very cool. So this is very useful for financial reporting or any really kind of date-based reporting. Keep track of the history.
I see it being asked a lot, and so I wanted to make something that kind of sets it all up for you. So if you get it from the universe, it should come with the it'll come in with the script app. So even, I mean, the formulas are going to be there, but if you need help writing your own variation of the formula to either add or remove time periods, the script will come in it with it as well. So you could use that. The one time period I didn't figure out was century, and I don't want to. So you're all on your own.
Nice. That is a cool trick, though, the one to add the full duration and then subtract one to get the end period.
Yeah. End period is, to one more time, it's whatever the start is plus one, whatever the time unit is. It really doesn't matter the time unit. So from 2021, like January 1st, 2021, add a whole year. So 2022, January 1st, and then minus 1 day. That would be the 31st of December, 2021. Works for any time period.
Yeah, and like Google Sheets and Excel have a period end function, I think, but Airtable does not. So that's how you implement it.
Yeah, you have to nest two date adds together.
Yep. Awesome. Very cool, Camille. And we'll have a link to the universe example so you can try it out and play with it. And even just as a learning experience to check out the formulas and see how everything's working. So awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go back here. And we are now going to meet the creators. So in this segment, Zoltan, we just want to get to know a little bit about you, about your story. Interested to hear how you found Airtable and maybe give us some background on previous experiences that you've had and what's your story?
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for having me on here. So let's start with a little personal background. So I think it makes sense. I'm a non-technical builder, maker, which I think automatically draws me to some tools and platforms that are built for non-technical people. But my story or our story with Truesource is a little it's a little peculiar, I would say, here, because we're not necessarily building something on top of Airtable, although we are. But our tool requires technical knowledge on our side, so we're not only non-technical builders here. But my background, so I'm originally from Hungary. One of highlights of my career, I founded and led the Google office in Hungary. This is back in historical times, beginning of the century that Camille is not tracking. And then I moved on and worked in marketplaces, one of the largest marketplace operators in the world. They're currently called Adevinta. They recently acquired eBay Classifieds last year, and they operate marketplaces, I think, around 15 countries these days. They used to be up to like 25 at one point. I was the person running product marketing, analytics, and innovation on a global level, based out of Barcelona, and then moved to California about 6 years ago. Worked in a B2B SaaS startup that I had a small exit out of, and about a year ago, I met my co-founder. His name is Edward. He's my technical co-founder, and given our background, he's also ex-Google, but he's on the technical side. He worked in the machine learning team of Google back when machine learning was not a sexy thing. And so basically we were kind of like, and he's also like super into data. So we were kind of drawn into this space of data and non-technical field, and we were kind of iterating, and I would say co-founder dating for a while before we kind of figured out the area, what's going to be the product and the problem space that we're building for. And this is how we kind of came to like Airtable and the related platforms that actually do host data or serve as kind of databases for not necessarily technical people, and smaller teams, smaller projects. And we were looking at some of the problems that creators and makers are facing, and we really have discovered that it's really difficult. And you just discussed about the interface designer here, but when we started building, there was really not a simple way to make your bases, make your Google Sheets, or even worse, make your CSV files available, viewable, filterable, editable, and publishable, and even more difficult is monetizable by anybody on the internet. So that's how actually Truesource was born, with that thought. But I'll just kind of like stop here with the personal introduction.
Very cool. And yeah, and you're based out in Camille's neck of the wood. You're out in LA.
I am. Our company is actually fully remote, so
that's okay.
Yeah.
I'll count it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in LA. Edward, my co-founder, is in Palo Alto, and we have team members basically all throughout the US. So we're like fully remote. We're a post-COVID organization, I would call ourselves.
Yeah. Awesome. So with Truesource, kind of the mission is to allow data builders to monetize and share their data and
yeah,
it's an option.
It's basically to empower creators to market and monetize their data in a way that was not possible before, and we're kind of doubling down on data. So we are aware that there are some other visual builders, website builders, or even some other builder tools, even mentioned on today's podcast before, that you can build applications based on Airtable, or based on even Google Sheets, or some other data hosting services. But we make it super simple, and some of the things that we do, like multiple bases, multiple tables, nested, linked together, are super difficult, if not impossible, to build with any other platform.
Awesome. And you're gonna show us how to set that up here in a second.
Yes, I will show some examples. I will show sneak peeks into the creator interface. I can't show the full interface right now because we're pre-launch, so we're still building it. We have actually a working product, so our backend functions completely. But yeah, as I've said, we're still building the front end, and I can give sneak peeks, but I can't show the whole working process. But what is interesting is that the setup process, we're designing it to be super simple, so it will not take more than 30 seconds to set up what we call a data product. It's basically a data application, so a web application based on some sort of data set or database. We're designing the whole process to be not longer than 30 seconds.
Awesome. Cool. Why don't you start to share your screen, and in the meantime, I'm going to do a final spotlight on our sponsor while you get your screen ready to share. And we're going to stick with AutoReport Amplify, as that's a big launch coming out soon, any day, like I mentioned before. Go to my example here. So for this one, just a quick overview. If you've used Amplify, you know it's kind of a collection of views that you can use to go deep into your data. There is some similarities with the interface designer. These are deep into a record level, but they also extend your data to add different types of ways to view your data that the Airtable doesn't currently have. And so we have 9 different block views that you can use to interact with your data, either looking at linked records, previewing your data, or editing your content inside your data through a Markdown editor if you have Markdown data, an HTML editor, a JSON editor, or Google Docs if you're linked to Google Doc URLs. And then we also added a very simple text editor. So this is our new editor. And sometimes we found that you just need a good text editor to be looking at data, especially if you have a lot of data and it's just clean text, it's not Markdown or HTML. You can use this text editor to keep track. And it's just very simple interface. It shows you the line numbers. You can also keep track of your word counts. You can also download it as a text file if needed. So a very simple text editor for interacting with your record data. And so that's the latest block view that's been added to the new release that's coming out soon. So check it out, AutoReport Amplify. Check out all of the block views and feel free to let us know if there's a block view that you want to see added to it. So with that, we will finish up here. Get back to my screenshots. And for this final segment, we'll do as part of the app a day. And I'm missing an E there for Truesource. I'll fix that post-production. And I will share your screen. And then, all right, go for it.
Yep, thank you. So so first of all, I'd just like to guide you through our landing page. So as you can see here, we're actually we're pre-launch, so we have a wait list. So anybody listening who you're interested or you're intrigued by what I'm showing, just feel free to go to truesource.io and you can join our wait list. Here's just a sample screenshot of 2 of our screens that something like a data product, how we imagine it, how you can set it up. This is what we call a grid view of a data product. So here you can see my mouse, right, roaming around. Yes. So here you have a banner image, what we call a banner image, and kind of a marketing place or a marketing area where you can kind of tease your users, so the end consumers of your data products that you set up. And then you have areas for links, basically, and then your data, which in this case is in a grid view. So it's a nice visual representation of your data. You can see that you can show images, logos, whatever the type of or sort of data you're working with. And I will show examples of the table views that we're also launching with. So by default, we're going to be launching with these 2 views. So yeah, as I mentioned, besides Airtable, Truesource works with Google Sheets or just simple CSV files. One important thing is that it's 100% free to use. So setting up your data products, however big they are, and there's always some small text, a small print legal disclaimer there. So yeah, we won't be able to host like 1,000 terabytes, but yeah, within normal limits, I would say that it's free to use with huge data sets as well. We have integrated payments, which is kind of a feature that a lot of our early creators that we've spoke with require, and that was kind of a pain point on how to monetize, and why the process is broken, and you have to go through like different steps, especially for the consumers. So everything is integrated within Truesource. Customization, as I've said, it's always a kind of a give or take, and what we've just seen on Airtable, is like how much you want to go towards customization and how much you want to simplify the process. So as an early stage tool, we're conducting interviews, and we're trying to make the process fit and make the designs fit as many use cases as possible, at the same time keeping it super simple. So the 30-second rule will apply, and even a more complex data product, we believe, should not take more than 5 minutes to set up. And obviously it's no coding, so it's a visual builder. And what's very interesting is that we will allow our creators to connect to other creators. So basically, you can build on top of some other creators' data products. This is coming in this. So this will be built in by the launch. But obviously, as there will be more and more data products on our platform, this will be more and more useful and valuable to our creators, as they will be able to use data sets which other data creators are okay to share publicly, and build on top of those data products. And the value creation, so how, which is I think I can talk about it here. As I said, it's free to use, so it's like, okay, but how do you guys make money? Is whenever you monetize your product, we take a small cut from the revenue that you make, and out of our portion, we actually reserve a portion for co-creators. So even if you're uploading a data product and creating a data product that's not monetized, and I will show you an example of that, you can still make money on the platform if somebody else monetizes that data that you're setting up. This is just a sample screen of like how monetization is going to look like. Again, about the connections. So you see here a couple of examples, like public data sets that you can actually upload to Truesource. And if you do that and you maintain it and you clean it, you can actually make money as a creator, even though you might not be directly monetizing it. So
real quick question.
Yeah.
So I think it was in the above section. So if you have data, if you're a data creator, you can sell it on a subscription basis or one time only. It looked like you had either option.
Yeah. So basically, monetization options are totally up to the creator. So some of our early creators, and again, I will show one example of that in the next couple of minutes, uses login requirements. So basically, they are capturing usernames, emails to access data. So it's kind of a lead magnet. Like Truesource works for them as a lead capture mechanism or tool. While as some other creators have set up their data products with direct monetization. And when you do that, you can do a one-time access fee, or you can do a monthly subscription if you're maintaining and updating your data set. We also provide full user and access management, including alerts and notifications. So basically, when you update your data, you can send out notifications to your users, so that they will know why they're paying that monthly subscription fee for. And the value created by the creator is always clear to the consumer, who is at the end of the day paying for the data product. And as a creator, you can set up, rows or columns that you want to hide, or you want to, ask for extra payment for. So the creator has total control over their data set and how they want to make it available. Also, download options. So download can be enabled or can be disabled. Totally up to the creator, because obviously in the data space, download is a nice option and a threat at the same time, I would say, for many creators who are working with big and valuable data sets.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, some more visualization options here, and then I guess I can just jump into some of the data products that have already been created on our platform, even though, as I've said, we're kind of pre-launch at this point. So this data product actually is linked from our landing page as well, so everybody can check it out. This is kind of an Asian Crunchbase. So if you know Crunchbase, that's kind of a data product around startups and funding and investors into the startup ecosystem. And this creator is actually putting together a data product on specifically Asian companies. So as I scroll down, you see this is a tabular format data product. And the filters, which I haven't mentioned, are actually auto-created. So you see that these filters, there's a date filter, there's a country filter, and all of these are auto-created based on the type of data. So if there was geo data here, actually the countries could have been shown as a map. But when we discover, or when we realize that there's geo data in the data set that's uploaded, we automatically create map filters. And then here you see that this creator, as I mentioned, requested that there's a login wall. So basically, I just click on login. I go to login. I should be able to log in through my. Here we go. You'll see my Gmail now, so everybody can spam me. And yeah, I just logged in, and here now I have access to the full data set, and I can just show you one example of how a detailed view a card view looks like. Obviously, this is again dependent on the type of data. So this is a very simple detailed view with no nested tables here, or no nested further nested data. But you see that the creator has actually hidden some fields. These are all customizable. Now, sticking with the same kind of problem space, but moving into Web3, this is a crypto Crunchbase, if you will. So this creator has collected all companies and investors in the crypto space. So this is where there are connections between data sets. So you can actually see the names of the companies here, and then those are linked to some of their investors. So if you go into like one of the companies and check the details, and then you see that I selected the wrong one because this company actually is not funded yet. But if you select another one, then you will see that this is actually an investor, and that fund has actually invested into different companies. And then just clicking on the company, you will actually get to the detailed view of that company, and then you can see all the other investors in that company. So all of this lives in, like, basically there are two tables, and then the connection between these tables, investors and companies, are the funding events, which connect this data product together, or kind of interlink the data product.
So is that respecting, like, do you know if the source for this was Airtable or not?
Some of these are from Airtable, some are from CSV files, and some are from Google Sheets. So I actually don't.
That linking it, if you do set it up in Airtable, it understands the link between tables and incorporates that into the product.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So keeping it a little shorter, actually, I'll skip one product, but the next one that I want to show is just to showcase like how easy is monetization. So this is a very simple monetization here with $200 one-time access. You pay to unlock, and then you're taken directly to Stripe, and yep, you basically pay and you get full access.
Very cool.
And the last one that I wanted to show as a product, and then I'll give the sneak peek into the creator interface. This is a nicer visual, more visual data product that I've said this is about, public data directly downloaded from the City of New York's website. But just like today, this is totally undiscoverable, hidden in a CSV file that you can download. But we created a sample data product out of these parks. So basically, you can see all the different filters, and I can just show you like a flagship park that I know will have more details. So like Bronx Park here, this is the detailed view of the park. You can obviously just hide any of these details that are not relevant, like park department ID. You can hide or show these. But what's interesting, and where I was where I was mentioning that it's more difficult to create this in other builders or platforms, is that we have all the park trails included, all the water features, all the park zones, and because it's COVID, all the social distance violations. So basically, all these are nested tables that are linked by the park IDs. So New York City has park IDs for all of the parks, and it's super simple to basically create these nested views through these unique IDs or true IDs, as we call them. And finally, just a sneak peek into like how simple the whole setup and then the customization part will look like. So this is just a sample image of the product creation. Basically, how do you create a project? Name, URL, then you select your input, you select your views, and you basically set it up immediately. And as I've said, the filter creation, for example, is totally automatic. You select the view, and then those views will be automatically added. So then you have a starting point that you build from. Like this next view is how the creator interface will look like. You always see on the right hand side, you see kind of what you're creating, what you're doing, and then on the left hand side you will be kind of making your customizations or your modifications. Here in this part, you're setting up a page detail. You can select which row or which will be the title of the card, the subtitle of the card, and so forth and so forth. And just to show another kind of view, so you can create, and I haven't mentioned that you can actually create internal or external products with Truesource. So since you have full access control, it's totally up to you to set up who has access to your data product. So this is like an employee directory kind of product that we're showcasing here. And here you're actually adding a section to your detailed view, and you can add, as I mentioned, connections from different other data products that are already on Truesource. And just a final bit of customization. As I've said, this is a give and take or a push and pull here. We're listening to our creators as to like what are the most needed customizations, and obviously like colors, fonts, images are customizable, and we're going to be working on adding more customizations based on user feedback after the upcoming launch of Truesource.io.
Awesome.
Cool.
So if a creator is using Airtable as their source, does it automatically stay in sync from Airtable, or do they have to log in and republish a new version of data?
Yeah, so that's a feature that has already been kind of flagged by our users that we will need to work on. Right now, as of the launch, it's a one-time sync, but we have started working on different APIs, and definitely that will be one. The Airtable sync will be one of the automations that we're going to be implementing very soon.
Gotcha.
I could see like pros and cons of it auto updating if you're like in the process of typing in, data, and it's depending on what time someone loads the page on Truesource, it might, data might not be finished, but like I could totally see if you have a view that's filtered to published, for instance, having that live update.
Yeah, and talking about that, one other thing that might come into the listener's mind right now is it possible to offer consumers interaction with the data product? And the answer to that is it's coming as well. So just like ranking, commenting. So like back and forth data exchange is not built right now, is not by default included, but definitely that's something that we heard from early creators, that there are some use cases when commenting, ranking, just giving stars to different elements of listings might make sense for some use cases.
I really like the feature of being able to share or repurpose data. So, and actually monetizing those that maybe make theirs freely available, but get benefits if it gets shared into another one. So that collaborative effort was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So like just to give one example for that, like the New York City Parks data product. If you are setting up a marketplace or setting up just a data product on, let's say, dog hotels, you would probably want to incorporate like which one has close by parks, so that your puppy can be taken for nice walks in the park. So that's kind of an added value if you know that a dog hotel has a nearby park. But real estate, office, it's just like so many use cases for incorporating just public data. And then we haven't even started discussing about incorporating other proprietary data sets.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Down the line, you could make all your data accessible via API and monetize the API access.
Yep,
I'm sure that's on your mind. So very cool. Thank you for showcasing that, Sultan. What time frame is there? An expected time frame of when it's going live?
Yes, it's a matter of weeks, not months.
Okay.
Got it.
Obviously, with launch dates, it's a bit tricky to look into the future and predict. But I would say it's a matter of weeks. Until then, I would just ask for your patience. And if you have a pressing need, you can reach out to us. If you join the waitlist, we have a Slack community where it's our early creators are actually up there and discussing with us and requesting some features. So if you join the waitlist, you can join the Slack community, reach out to us. And as I've said, we're conducting interviews. We're super happy to talk to anybody. And as you've seen, those are live data products already. So monetization is live. We can build for you until the self-serve platform is ready to go.
All right. Before we end it, somebody commented on your color changing microphone, so you better give a shout out to your son.
Yeah, that was actually set up by my son last night, and those are
Cool.
actually our corporate colors. So yeah, shout out to my son Daniel for that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sultan, for coming on today's episode. And Camille, as always, good to have you with us. And thank you to all who joined, and hope that you meet with us next time. It will be our final episode for the season, so be sure to join us. We'll have another special guest joining next week at Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Until then, we hope you are doing well and enjoy, for those in the U.S., your Thanksgiving holiday, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Yep. Bye.